let's move on to our first main topic today. And our first main topic today gets submitted to us by Eric Taylor, who writes, "What's up, gang? You know, something in my gut is bothering me. I'm excited for the MCU's Phase 4. I think a lot of us are really excited for Phase 4. My question, if Black Widow underperforms, along with other comic book movies next year, could we see that comic book movie fatigue lots of doubters have been talking about for 10 plus years? What do y'all think? And thanks, and the filthy is the way." Filthy is the way. Eric, thank you for writing that in. And yeah, I mean, and Eric's right. Listen, we're coming into 2020. And Rob, we talked last week a little bit about, you know, how this is the first year going into a brand new film year and looking at the comic book slate, and the first year that I'm going into it with a little bit of a question mark over my head. Now, don't get me wrong. That's not to say that I don't think there's some really good, potentially high quality stuff that we're looking at. Let's run down through here and just remind ourselves what are the comic book movies coming out in 2020, at least the major ones. We've got Birds of Prey is coming out, which I've got a lot. Well, I think a lot of us have a lot of question marks about. I think it's fair to say we got a lot of question marks about that one. Then we've got New Mutants, which I think we've been fascinated about for 17 years.
I can't even believe it's coming, John.
It's almost hard to believe. I think it'll come out somewhere around the 4th anniversary of when his first trailer dropped or something ridiculous like that. Then, of course, we got Black Widow, a project I have never been interested in, but man, I'd be lying if I didn't tell you the latest trailer got me turned on a little bit. The Wonder Woman 1984, that's one I've pretty much been rock solidly convinced, yeah, this one will be a winner. This one, you got Patty Jenkins directing it, that'll be a winner. Morbius, I think, has a lot of potential downside, but also a lot of potential upside. We've talked about that. Venom 2 is one I am ludicrously excited about. And then, of course, we've got the Eternals coming.
My favorite. This is
which
what
I
I'm
think
waiting for.
you are the most excited about. But the question comes in, Rob, is that could this be, you know, the year that this thing we've been hearing about literally for almost 10 years? We've been hearing for nearly 10 years that comic book movie fatigue is now setting in. Now we're getting comic book movie fatigue. You know, now people are tired of the comic book movies and all that kind of stuff. And for nearly 10 years, that's always been absolutely wrong. That's always been absolutely wrong. You know, comic book movie fatigue doesn't set in with volume. It sets in, I believe, it's not the volume of a genre that gets put out. It's the quality that gets put out. And it's once the quality starts to wane, then people start to get disinterested. But as long as they keep going to the movie theaters and they keep having a really good time, you could continuously put out more. And if they continue to enjoy them and you put out good stuff and it continues to be successful, then there's no reason to believe for a second that it's going to start to lose its momentum or go the way of the dinosaur or anything like that. But Rob, when you look at this year coming up, this 2020 year, I'm going to say something that I have not said in almost a decade, that people have been bringing up. This is the year for comic book fatigue. This is the year for comic book movie fatigue. This is the year for I'm going to tell you what, for the first time in nearly 10 years, I'll say this. It's possible. It's possible. And there's two reasons why I'm going to say it's possible that this could be the year that comic book movie fatigue sets in. Number one is this. With the amount of comic book material now on television,
right,
the avalanche of comic book material has never been more. Like, even when you're looking at fantastic shows like The Boys or Umbrella Academy or Doom Patrol, not so fantastic shows like maybe Titans or Cloak and Dagger, although that got pulled. We've got The Runaways on right now, which is not going to be out in 2020, but still, that we have all of the Arrowverse stuff, tons of Arrowverse stuff. We've got Marvel Television is going to be producing some more things. We've got all the Disney Plus stuff coming as well. So the sheer glut of it is something that's got to be taken into consideration. The second reason I think it's possible that 2020 could maybe be the year that maybe some comic book movie fatigue starts to set in is when we look at that list that we were just talking about, there's no Avengers Endgame on this list. You know what I mean? This is one year that we're going into it. Like when when Logan was coming out, we saw that trailer for Logan and we were like, this looks like something special. And everybody was stupidly excited about it. When we have Infinity War coming, oh my gosh, it's the culmination of this. And regardless of how it turned out, before it came out, like Justice League is coming. There were a lot of big, almost seemingly guaranteed knocking it out of the park, hyper fan-centric enthusiasm, apex projects coming out. And I simply don't think we have one of those this year. We have a couple of them that look like they could be really good, but like no apex predator. This is one that's going to rally all the fans around it, sort of thing. You know what I mean? That's even this in 2019. Like we even had Spider-Man: Far From Home, which I think you can argue was a really big apex one that a lot of people were super excited about it. Besides Endgame, this year I don't see it. On top of that, this year at least half of the movies have some big question marks on them.
Yes,
Morbius has a lot of upside and could be fabulous. But until we see it being fabulous, it's got a lot of question marks around it. Wonder Woman 84 is a win. I think Black Widow has some question marks surrounding it. Although I'm a little bit more convinced with the latest trailer, but I think it's got some question marks. New Mutants is clearly one with all the delays and all the drama surrounding it. Maybe this will be the best movie of the year, but until we see it, I think it's got some major question marks on it. And obviously we've talked about Birds of Prey. I think Birds of Prey is a movie that right now has a lot of significant question marks surrounding it. Again, could turn out to be movie of the year, but it's because of all this stuff put together that I am not saying, and let's be clear here, Rob, I want to be 100% clear about this. I am not saying that 2020 is the year that comic book movie fatigue sets in. I'm just laying out a few arguments about why I feel like for the first time in a long time, I'm at least willing to go so far as to say it could be. So I don't know. Rob, you're looking at this. You know, we're going to come out of the gate with a couple of movies here. We got Black Widow. We got Birds of Prey. Could perform, could not perform. They could be good movies. They could be bad. But when you're faced with the question, is 2020 going to be the year that comic book movie fatigue sets in? What is your first reaction to that and why?
Well, I think you summed it up pretty well. But if you look at this list, even with New Mutants, that movie's, I kind of think like it's Dead Man Walking. It's from a studio that, I mean, yes, Disney bought Fox, but it doesn't really exist anymore. You know, it was going to be part of the wider X-Men universe. It's not. The X-Men universe that it exists in doesn't exist anymore. So it's almost like from an alternate universe in a way. So the excitement, how big could it ever be? Because there's probably not going to be a New Mutants 2. And then you've got Morbius, which most people are like, is that based on a comic book character? You know, unlike, I mean, Venom had comic book fans all in a lather because Venom is Venom. You know, if you grew up reading comics, Spider-Man comics, Venom has been a big part of Spider-Man for the last 20 years. So that's pretty cool, but it's not like Venom was considered, it was a movie that people liked despite itself, really. You know, it was, people were surprised how much fun they had with Venom, and even the studio was surprised at how much money it made. You know,
everybody was shocked.
Everybody was shocked. And look, Wonder Woman 2, I think, is a bona fide heavy hitter. However, the idea that it's set in 1984, that Kristen Wiig is Cheetah, that Steve Trevor's back from the dead, it's like people are excited about it. They're like, oh, yeah, Wonder Woman's coming out. But there's not, like you said, I don't think there's an apex predator air around Wonder Woman 2. It's the kind of movie that people are like, oh yeah, it's coming, I can't wait, I'll see that. But they're not like, it's not something people are waiting on pins and needles to go see. Everybody will see it. Everyone likes Wonder Woman, but I don't think that, you know, there's going to be people waiting in line for a month outside the theater to get into Wonder Woman 2. So this, what's funny, even me, John, I'm a huge comic book movie fan. And the one comic book movie, yes, the Eternals, because it's such a question mark in my mind, because I'm a huge fan of the original Jack Kirby, the Eternals that he created, and then Neil Gaiman did an Eternals series. And it has a lot of, what excites me about Eternals is, again, Marvel's doing something they haven't done before. They said that the movie is going to span literally thousands of years, as it should. So we're going to see a different kind of movie. I expect sort of a Galadriel-esque opening of Fellowship of the Ring that's going to go along with Eternals.
That'd be cool.
And Yeah, and we deal with the Celestials and the cosmic nature of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So we're going to be getting a lot of cool stuff that we haven't seen before, but nobody knows that. People are like, okay, Angelina Jolie's in the Eternals. How'd Maleficent 2 work out for you? You know, I just don't think that the one comic book movie that I'm most excited about, I'm not even that excited about it. I really want to see it. I can't believe they've made an Eternals movie. I think it's going to be great, but I'm like, oh yeah, I'll go see it. But I'm not like, wow, I can't wait to see the Eternals. I'm more like, I can't believe they're making an Eternals movie. I'm going to go see it just to see what it's like. And look, of all of these movies, the one that looks coolest to me as a lifelong James Bond fan is Black Widow. But even then, she's dead. You know, it's like, okay. So I can't, as much as I think it's great, I love Scarlett Johansson. I can't wait to see the Black Widow movie. But when I say I can't wait to see it, it means like, oh yeah, Black Widow came out this week. We should go. It's not like I went and bought my tickets a month in advance on Fandango because I had to see it. So none of the comic book movies, none of them coming out this year or coming out in 2020 there's no fire under my ass that I'm feeling. I want to see all the movies, but I just am like, yep, because I think, you know, as far as it's not even whether it's fatigue, it's just that we've had this after Endgame. The wave has crested. It's like we surfed into shore. I'm sitting on the beach. My friend gave me a beer. I'm watching the sunset, and all of the ocean of superhero movies that I was excited about are there. The sun is setting on them, and I'm like, oh yeah, we'll see superhero movies again. But I don't feel. I think all of my genre and fan excitement is bubbling on the surface, but it's not. It's not erupting. I'm just kind of chilling out on the beach, man, looking at, wow, we're getting some cool stuff that's coming in this year. I'll see it. Yeah, man.
And you raise an interesting point, too, because the other thing to take into consideration is the effect of Endgame. You know, the fact of the matter is Endgame was this big climactic event and all this kind of stuff. And I remember coming out of it, a lot of people online talking about, like, in the immediate days following Endgame premiering, a lot of people talking about, oh, I loved it. And I might be MCU'd out now. Like, there really was those discussions from a lot of people. It's like, oh, okay, well, that was satisfying. Now we move on. So it's going to be interesting. And again, to be clear, we're not saying that this is the end of the comic book genre by no stretch of the imagination. And for all we know, 2020 could end up being the best comic book movie year in history. We don't know. But the question is for you guys now. How do you think 2020 will be viewed? Do you think this is, you know, looking into your crystal balls and looking forward, do you think maybe that this could be the year that maybe we finally do start to see some comic book movie fatigue set in? Or are you thinking not a chance? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right.